All right. Hello. We are trying something different tonight. We're going to try an evening stream. So a couple different things. One, we're going to try streaming in the evening, see how that goes. I've just eaten, so we'll see. And in my experience, basically once the sun goes down, I get a little bit brain dead. And I find when I try to cross stitch, which is what I normally do on Tuesday stream, the chances for mistakes and the need to frog exponentially skyrockets. So instead, I figured I'd do something that requires a little bit less brain power. And that is updating my tea list. So essentially, actually, maybe before we get to that, let's talk about what updates I've made to my setup. So I'm still trying to work out like technical issues and things like that. So I went and like mucked about with a bunch of settings and, turned frame rate stuff, computer thingies down. I've also gotten rid of the previous streaming or music option that I was using, and I'm going to try this new one, which is Pretzel Rocks, and it's the free version. And I think they have like different playlists. So this one is chill. So we're going to try that, see how that goes. Because I'm basically trying to create an environment on OBS and with my stream that requires a lot less refreshing, a lot less just things that would overwhelm the program. And so we'll see how that goes. And yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed. So like I said, well, and the other thing too is I think going with this Pretzel Rocks, I think because normally like when I'm stitching, I like having like, I say specifically the Peaceful Piano playlist on Spotify is like my go-to when I'm cross-stitching. And I think I need to just accept that if I'm going to try to utilize free services, I'm not going to get the exact specific type of playlist that I want. So as long as it's, I figured chill is good enough. That's still the vibe, whether or not it's, the specific Peaceful Piano vibe. I'm not sure, but I think I just have to kind of get over myself there in that respect. So that's what I'm doing. So back at the task at hand. Oh, it's a little, see, this is really good, but oh, I shouldn't have done that. One of the other things now is with streaming in the evening, I don't have the luxury of daylight. So that's another thing that we'll see how it goes. So these look a little bit dark, but bear with me. What I want to do is update my tea list. So basically this is the current list, and there's a lot of things that are X'd out of it. There's also things that I've amended and stuff. So basically I have a slight obsession with tea. I don't know when that obsession started, but basically my entire adult life I've had a tea obsession and a vast tea collection to complement that obsession. I think it's like a couple different things, because I had mentioned previously how I love, Victorian era stuff. I also really love Alice in Wonderland. That was something that I got really into in secondary school. I don't think I was drinking tea as obsessively in that time, but I think they sort of all naturally, my interests in things all sort of naturally flowed into each other and became related, to the point where when I was living in Canada still, I actually attended like a tea convention in Toronto, which was really cool because there were all of these different vendors and they had different demonstrations of the different like traditional tea ceremonies, because there's like a Chinese tea ceremony, there's a Japanese one, there's a few different ones. And then they would have like speakers, so I learned all about like different types of tea and the different like processes and stuff like that, and I just thought it was so cool. So from that, the collection grew and grew to the point where when I moved here, I actually brought tea with me. And because I had amassed a collection and I wasn't going to leave it behind, and there was too much for me to consume before I left, so I brought it with me. And my goal was to try in the last year to drink as much of those teas as possible, because I've been here going on 5 years now, and I am aware that tea expires. I think as long as you keep it in like an airtight container, it's fine, but it's not ideal, I'm sure. Like, I'm sure somebody could tell me about, you know, the air messes with the tannins and it has like a more bitter flavor over time or whatever. So that's why there's so many crosses on this bad boy, because I made it my mission to go through them all. And there's still a few, mostly in the herbal tea section, because either not necessarily things that I've purchased myself, but like things we've been gifted. I'm not a huge fan of fruity teas hot. Usually if I'm drinking tea, and if it's like a fruity tea, I usually prefer those cold, like an iced tea situation. Because sometimes I find that depending on the type of fruit, they can kind of be a little bit sour, especially like the berry sort of ones. So I find it's a bit, I've been struggling trying to get rid of or trying to drink those particular teas because they're not like kind of my go-tos. So, yeah. But most of them, and then of course too, one of the things I tried to do actually, which kind of worked, I haven't really done it as much now, is I bought just like a plain green tea, and my goal was to almost do like some tea mixing myself. And so, why am I not using this? Because I actively have measurements on this cutting board, and I should actually be using them to mark out what I'm trying to do. Okay, but yeah, so there's like actual, so anyway, I was trying to actually do like tea mixing myself so that I could potentially get through those herbal teas better, because if I drank them in the morning by mixing them with green tea and getting a caffeine hit, that seemed like an option. And that worked like for the most part, but I think maybe I just have to get to a point where I just accept that I might have to throw out some teas. But I haven't gotten to that point yet. I'm still in the pre-contemplative stage of, culling my tea collection. So I thought I would make it a little bit fancier, because this one, I think because there were so many teas, I just kind of needed to make a list. I managed to color code it based on the type of tea it was, and I think I'm still going to do that, but instead, I think I'll just try to make it a little bit nicer. So what I want to do is create like a little border for it and like make it look, just a little bit fancier. So this one is 10. So that's 10, so like 15 and a half. So if I make it, oh God, see, I'm already trying to do math in my brain and it's taking, you can see the steam coming out. Basically, I want like maybe like a centimeter border or a half centimeter border around everything. So maybe the best bet is to at least mark off how big this is. That might actually be the easiest option. I know it's a little bit wasteful, but it's sort of like I helped my mom make a quilt when she came to visit. And you don't it's not like effective to like kind of cut a little bit and then like kind of do edges. You just like cut straight strips. And that's a lot easier in terms of like making fabric squares. Whereas, if, when you cut wrapping paper, or at least when I cut like wrapping paper to wrap presents, if the object is this big, I'm not going to cut the entire sheet. I'm going to do like a bit smaller. And then you just end up having a lot of like awkward shaped things. But this doesn't seem straight, but it is. Oh well. Yeah, it seems like what changes I've made have actually made an impact on my stream situation. So we haven't had any encoding overloads or drops so far that I can see. So that's very exciting. I'm actually like sort of kind of figuring stuff out. So naturally for my background image, it looks kind of blue on the camera, but it's like it's green because obviously tea is a plant and the most common color association with plants is green. So that's my reasoning behind this. Okay. So now I'm just gonna mark like a centimeter on each side and hope that that is enough to accomplish what I want to accomplish. But yeah, so I figured, it would be cool to do a border with a green border, because naturally. So the tea plant, I don't know, I'm gonna drop like nerdy tea knowledge on you now, it's called the Camellia sinensis plant. So all tea that actually is tea comes from that plant. So you'll hear like, peppermint tea, rooibos tea, chamomile tea. Those aren't technically teas because they didn't come from that plant. So they're referred to as, I don't actually know how to pronounce it. When you like see the word all the time, but you've never actually seen how it's pronounced, but tisanes or tisans, tisane, that is technically what those teas are because they don't contain the Camellia sinensis plant. And so the reason, so basically how you end up achieving different things like green tea, black tea, I think oolong tea, and then white and yellow tea, which I didn't know was a thing until I went to this tea convention, is all derived from that plant. And so basically that happens through like the picking process, if I remember correctly. Like I said, it's been years since I've kind of nerded out about tea, but from what I remember, I think it's white tea is like the first pick. So obviously, like, as plants grow, I think it's similar to, like, grapes for wine and stuff. You have like your first first round or first yield or something, or it's like the younger plants of the plant, of the tea leaf. And so then those are picked, and there's two kind of main types of green tea. So there's ways to kind of create it, and there's like a roasted green tea, or there's a steamed green tea. And I always forget which ones. I think it's the Japanese green tea, which is the roasted version, and then Chinese green tea is the steamed version. So naturally, like, roasted tea has a bit more of like an earthier, kind of nuttier texture, whereas the steamed stuff kind of tastes a little bit more like seaweedy. So that's something that I found really interesting. And you can kind of taste the difference a little bit. Because one of the other things that they had mentioned at this tea conference was a lot of people... Actually, we'll get into that later, because there's not only with different types of tea, obviously there comes different, like, preparation methods, which I don't always ascribe to. Like, I think before I was super, like, OTT about my tea. So what you're actually supposed to do when you make tea is have it at a specific temperature, and you have to warm up the, like, mug or the pot, like whatever vessel you're using to steep the tea in. It has to be warmed up first before you add the tea and the water, because basically, let's say for black tea, for instance, you're supposed to steep it at 100 degrees Celsius. So you might boil water, and the water boiled is 100 degrees Celsius. But as soon as you put it in like a cold cup, that like hit of, I guess, cold from the actual vessel itself instantly brings that temperature down. So you're not actually boiling the tea, or you're not actually steeping the tea at the recommended temperature. I realized I was doing all that off camera. That's probably not helpful. So yeah, so with green tea, a lot of people don't like it because they say, like, it tastes like dirt, or, that sort of stuff. And one of the things that this particular person at this tea conference I attended was saying was that, a lot of, like, fast food places, or I guess a lot of coffee shops, if they're coffee based and they're not necessarily tea based, everything is like brewed at 100 degrees Celsius. So if you get, for instance, the example they used was, if you get a green tea from Starbucks, it's most likely going to taste like shit, because they're using their boiled water that they would use for their coffee, and so it actually burns the tea. So green tea, because it's lighter, because it's, I guess, a younger plant, you're only supposed to steep it in 80 degrees Celsius water. And so if you are boiling the shit out of something and then sticking the green tea leaves in it, there's a chance that it's not going to taste how the tea is supposed to taste, because you actually burnt the leaves. Whereas black tea, because it's actually meant to be sort of brewed at that temperature, it's not a problem. So that's something that if you really wanted to, and I'm sure too, like, the teas, like, I have different types of tea, and right now I drink green tea in the morning, and then usually black tea in the afternoon, decaf in the evening. I'm not super, like, I don't watch my tea temperatures as much as maybe I could to get, like, the full flavor of the tea. So, yeah. Okay, cool. This kind of maybe worked out. Awesome. that looks good. But yeah, before I went off on a tangent about heat, I just gotta grab some glue. Yeah, like I said, there are two or multiple different types of tea, but they all come from the same plant. So green tea, I think, is the first one that gets picked. And then you have yellow tea, which is quite rare. Ooh. And then, sorry, my glue has like a splooge on it. I think oolong is the next because it's sort of a bit of a lighter tea flavor. And then you have your black tea, pu'er tea, which is something that I don't have a lot of knowledge about. But that's another type of tea. And then I wish I had a paintbrush. I've been cleaning up my like crafting area with all my like non-essential things. So I just dumped all of my paintbrushes away, which have me not considering that maybe I would need one to sort of spread this glue out. What do I have? I had a bunch of paper clips. There we go. Just to unstick the glue. But yeah, so then all of those are technically considered tea. The other ones are not. But a lot of people just generically refer to them as tea. Because even I do. Even I'm like, that's, you know, I'll have like a chamomile tea or a peppermint tea or something. I don't sit there and go like, I'll have a tisane. I don't think people do that. So, yeah. And then I think a lot of the reasons, or a lot of the herbal teas, like, that's been a thing that a lot of people start with. They either start with like herbal teas when they're starting out with tea, or they start with like the flavored caffeinated teas. So one of the places in Canada that I used to always go, I was so excited, I lived across the street from one once, was David's Tea. So it's a tea company in Canada, and they do flavored teas. And so one of my favorite ones, my brother actually got it for me, was a red velvet cupcake tea. And so, this looks... It's the only problem when you use glue, is it ends up being not the nicest looking. Whoops. Okay. But yeah, so this thing, it was a Black Forest tea. And because, or not Black Forest, red velvet cupcake tea. Because I have celiac disease, I can't eat gluten. And so a lot of like baked goods, obviously you can get, you know, a lot of gluten-free versions of baked goods now, but it's not as frequent. And I probably should have written everything down before I glued it. That wasn't very smart. Anyway, we'll see what happens. It'll be fine. But yeah, so when I can get like a beverage or something that like simulates the gluten-filled thing that I'm not able to have, I'm very excited about that. So I got that from him, and so that sort of started my like David's Tea flavored tea obsession. And yeah, and then I sort of graduated to other teas after that. Got all these little stamps. I don't think I'm going to use them to like write out the individual names of the teas, but I want to use them to write the word tea. Maybe what I'll do is $15.50. Watch me make things again, roughly like here. Jeez, okay. My brain is like not. What is 15.5 divided by 2? You can tell math is not my strong suit. 7.75. Okay, sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 ish. Okay, yeah, so I was like roughly right. Wait. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 ish. So like here. Realize I'm not in frame. I'm basically using my cutting board as like a reference table. So if I move this over here, then I can line it up with the 27, and so it's not as awkward. Because I find like this cutting board is good, but obviously they don't all have the line, like the halfway lines, so I'm trying to like match the line up here to the line down here, and it doesn't always work. Okay, so that's the center. Hey, bud. Shadow has come to visit. Hey, good boy. You gonna come hang out with me, yeah? While we make a tea list. Okay. I'm really regretting my decision to glue all of this stuff down, but hey ho, there's nothing we can do about that. I know it'll dry. Let's get out the letters that I need. We need a U. We need an M. So I think I'm going to do T menu across it. I also have these like little teacup stamps and a teapot stamp. So I'm hoping that like I can stick one down in the corner. I can probably stick the teacups like either side of, maybe either side of this. So what else? Yes, talking about, so I've worked out how many teas I have. I took stock this morning, just double checking because I have acquired some new ones. So here is the whole list. You can't really see it. Well, maybe a little bit. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 teas. And this is a combination of loose leaf teas as well as bag teas. I went through a huge phase, again, like with this tea obsession. It's sort of like, I don't know, like made me feel superior that I was like drinking posh tea that was loose or something. Now I've gotten, again, like my obsession has waned. I've gotten a little bit lazier. because you have, like, I have tea steepers and I have things like that to steep loose leaf tea. But sometimes you just want to, like, chuck a tea bag in a cup and, like, call her a day. You got stuff to do. So that's some of them that I've been doing lately. But I think I want to get back into, like, the ritual of steeping a cup of tea. I think part of that, like, laziness that's come into play is that my partner and I have, like, gotten into drinking coffee. So, and we do, like, a fancy pour over coffee using this Chemex. He got all the supplies and stuff a couple years ago. I think it was maybe last year. So that's, like, a whole meditative thing where you, like, grind the beans and you fold up the filter and you weigh everything and pour the coffee, and, like, it's a whole to-do. So I think maybe that's, like, tired me out in terms of, like, bougie coffeeness, or, like, you know, bougie beverage steeping culture. So I think that maybe has been why I don't do that for tea as much anymore. But I would like to get back into it. So we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So perfect. So if I just chuck the M kind of right in the center, then that will work wonderfully. So in addition to compiling all of the tea that I have in my cupboard, we still have construction going on. I think luckily, like, Shadow's been really well with it. He kind of in the morning when the builders turn up, because some of them, like, they're slowly, some of them, like, you can tell are proper dog people and they, like, want to come say hello to him and, like, give him, you know, some pets and stuff like that. And then there's a couple other ones that are, like, not, I think, 100% about dogs, which is fine. But you can tell that he's like, I want you to be my friend. I'm going to come play with you and, like, we're going to make this work. So at the beginning, he's, like, almost fishing for some acknowledgement, and once they do, he, like, settles, and he's not, like, wanting to go outside or he's not acting as OTT as he was when they first got here, where he was, like, I think it took him a good 20 minutes, half hour to, like, calm down when they first arrived, and now he's just, like, maybe 5, which is good. But because obviously we're sorting things out in our garden, he's not had full reign of that space. So today I took him on he's right here, a big WALK to the like green space near our place and let him have a bit of a run around there. But he had his recall lead on, so it's like 100-foot lead, so that he can run around and stuff, but we don't trust him to not take off. So right now he's on that. So there we go. Really not framed. Maybe I need to just pull this back and be like, listen, there's a lot more going on today. A lot more. I don't have things lined up, so it's gonna look a little bit. There we go. But yeah, so we did that, which I think was really helpful in giving him time to run around. It was annoying though, because he was really great on his recall lead. He, like, didn't, you know, because when we first put him on it when he was younger, he, like, didn't realize where that stopped. And so he ended up, like, kind of getting caught out or getting tangled in it and stuff like that. And that wasn't the case this time, which was awesome. So he did really, really well. But then on the way back, I stuck him back on his retractable lead. And so then he took it upon himself. I don't know how much, like, dogs can control it when they get the zoomies. But he got, like, mad zoomies. And I think attempted to pull my arm out of my socket 4 separate times before we got home. You know, not luckily, like, it's not to that degree, but it definitely hurts. Like, you definitely need to tell him to, like, slow his roll for everyone's safety. Because it's not fair on him, especially because it's quite muddy out. And because he doesn't really have brakes. He can then slip and hurt himself. He's so accident prone because he's so fast, but he's so gangly. And doesn't, like... He can't decelerate very quickly. He can't, like, just stop. He needs to, like, slowly decelerate. And he can't do sharp turns. So if he's running, like, back and forth and he's really excited about something and it's, like, a narrow path, again, like, he then ends up having to do a larger circle, which then could have him, like, running into brambles and different things like that. So it's quite a full-time... it's a full contact sport almost, and it's very labor intensive for all of us to go on these WALKs together, especially now that he's almost like 25 kilos. So he's 1 year old. He's like in his teenager doggy phase, living his best life, but also still kind of doesn't know how to be a dog. Like, he's still sort of figuring all that out. So yeah, so he's learning, we're learning, and my upper body is a little bit sore for it. It was funny because I've been going to like a chiropractor for, I want to say, over a year now to address some like neck and shoulder injuries that I've had. And with that, like, I've also been doing, like, complimentary, like, massages to kind of go along with that and whatever. And so I've, like, basically for the first time in a while, one time I was waking up and, you know, like, in the morning you stretch out. You're like, oh, yeah, whatever. Like, you know, you stretch. And this muscle seized up, which had never happened before. And so when I went there, we assessed it and things. But that's when I realized, like, you know, at least 3 times a day, we're playing tug of war with his favorite toy. You know, he's going for walks where he's, you know, not realizing sort of where the end of the lead is. So he's pulling a lot more, stuff like that. And so I kind of pieced 2 and 2 together, and I'm like, that explains why my upper body is sore all the time. So I need to stretch that out and work on, the massage therapist suggested, like, maybe building up my, like, back muscle strength, but we'll see if I need to do that, because I'm not the biggest fan of exercise. I go for my walks. I got, like, super into yoga for a little bit, and I still, like, kind of do stretches and things like that, but any sort of, like, weightlifty sort of cardio, whatever stuff that's, like, just for the sake of it, not for me. I know, like, there's a lot of benefits for your mental health that comes in, like, working out. I think it's, like, dopamine or something that gets released, so it's helpful to, like, keep your body moving and stuff. So I do agree with that. And I do find it helpful. Like, I know, obviously, before we got Shadow, I would just almost, like, take myself for a walk, a WALK, because I found, you know, the act of walking and being out in nature very good for my mental health. And so now, like, that we have Shadow, it creates that precedence where I have to do that. And it's good because, you know, sometimes, even though you know something is good for you, it's like eating vegetables, right? You know it's good for you, but some days you just can't be asked to do it. And so it's helpful that we have each other to sort of keep that in check. But yeah, there was a time actually, before, you know, the world went to shit and stuff, that, like, me and my partner got really into rock climbing. Like bouldering specifically, because you didn't need, like, all the harness stuff and things. You just kind of needed some shoes. So we got really into that for a while, and I think I really enjoyed that as a form of physical exercise because there was, like, a goal and a purpose. Like, it wasn't just for the sake of something. It was like, a mental puzzle that you slowly worked out. Like, you know, you have almost like a problem of like all the holds on a wall, and then you have to use your brain and your body to sort of work out how to navigate that. And so, yeah, that was really interesting. But of course, with everything going on, like, we haven't felt, well, at least I haven't felt comfortable kind of going back into that sort of a setting, which is a shame, but I know, like, we'll get to that point eventually. But for now, I'll just, you know, take myself and Mr. Shadow for walks and things. And that seems to be enough. Okay, so I'm so mad about this glue situation, but whatever. So I'm just making lines of like to separate out where all of the lists of tea will go. On the old one, I had like a 3-tiered list, or a 3-column list. I don't think I'll need that. I'm hoping. Just let me see, how many do we have again? 2, 4, 6, 9, 10, 13, 14, 15. Yeah, I think it was like 21. And so I think it's like, even if I start here, that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 21 ish. Yeah. So I don't think that'll be necessary. What I might do, because I have more herbal teas, like herbal teas is the one that I have the most of, so that will definitely like go on the category first, and then we'll do the black teas, and then we'll probably like have spaces, and then we'll kind of include all the other ones. So I think that's what we're gonna do. I like to, you know, I wish I was really good at like calligraphy or something like that to like make everything look super fancy, but alas and alack, I am not. Oh, am I gonna try to put all this in alphabetical order too? I was really not prepared. Like, let's be honest, I really wasn't prepared for this. I thought it would be an interesting idea, and I still want to make this thing, and I'm very excited about it. But it definitely, there's actually more technical stuff involved in this than I sort of anticipated. Than like stitching, it's just like follow a pattern stitch. So it's requiring a little bit more from me than I anticipated. But anyway, it's all right. We're here now. We're doing it. So we have 6 black teas. So what I'm basically going to do is I'm going to start by just like roughly writing everything down in pencil, and then we'll go over it in Sharpie. And then once this glue dries, because I don't want to risk tearing things, I'll then erase all of the pencil marks, and then hopefully we'll have a nice looking tea menu. So let's start with the Earl Grey is our first tea. So this is a Twinings tea, and Earl Grey is definitely my favorite tea for the summer. So like in the summertime, that's like my black tea of choice. And then in the wintertime, though to be fair, most of the time, like I really like chai tea. I like spicier sort of teas in that time, because they're just like, they're cozier for like the kind of fall winter months. And those, some of them though, like typically a lot of the chai tea blends out there actually don't have any tea, it's just the spices, but you can get chai tea that actually has black tea in it, and so that's one of the things that I prefer in the evening. The OG Next, we have English breakfast. So this is the tea of the UK. It was really funny. So again, I was talking about how I live near a David's Tea. And so my partner came to visit me, and I took him to this place. I was like, oh, we're going to go to David's Tea. Like, there's all these teas. They have, like, all the teas in really big tins along the back wall, so you can see them all. I'm like, hundreds of teas, like, so many different options and flavor profiles, and they're so cool. And, like, come on, we got to go check it out. And we get there, and I'm like, look at all these options. And he looks at the woman and goes, can I have an English breakfast, please? And I was like, you basic-ass bitch. You have all these tea options, and you decide that you want to have a standard English breakfast. But, you know, that's you know, Liam in a nutshell. He is Mr. Classic. If it don't broke, don't fix it. So we ended up doing that. And it's actually really interesting because here, like, English breakfast is like a standard tea. So if you go to a restaurant and you go, I just want a standard tea, they give you English breakfast. In Canada, English breakfast is a specialty tea. So you get Orange Pekoe in Canada, or like Red Rose is the brand name, and that's like Red Rose is the standard tea that you would get. Whereas I think PG Tips, or like there's a specific brands of English breakfast tea that you would get at like cafes throughout the UK. But in Canada it would be something else. So next we have Melbourne breakfast. And so I think we looked it up because apparently Orange Pekoe, you know, rightfully so, or it has nothing to do with oranges. There's no like citrusy taste to it at all. It's actually, we looked it up, and I think it has something to do with like Lord Orange. So he was the person who like shipped or was part of the like shipping of this particular blend of tea to like the Americas or something like that. So that's why it's so important, and that's how it got its name, I guess. But I don't know. I think if you like really looked for it, I think I tried to once to actually look for Orange Pekoe tea here. And I haven't found any yet. To me, it just kind of tastes like standard breakfast tea. But it would be really interesting to do a taste comparison of like Orange Pekoe tea versus English breakfast tea to see what I prefer and like what is sort of the general consensus from all of the English breakfast drinkers in my family. So right now we have the Earl Grey, English breakfast, Melbourne breakfast, and New York breakfast, which are teas from T2. I got those for Christmas with a tea mug that my partner got me as a present. So I've had both of these before. New York breakfast is really nice. It's much sweeter. So if you look at like the tasting description on the T2 website, it's meant to be like basically like a pancake, like basically like a breakfast, what's it called? Not like a cafe, but like, you know, when you go and get like it's like a pancake breakfast. So like a pancake breakfast you would get at like a traditional kind of North American diner. Whereas like full English breakfast here is very savory, like breakfast in, I guess, America, like in Canada. And to be fair, we have savory breakfast too, but like there's a whole ass page on like a breakfast menu dedicated to like pancakes, waffles, like tons of fruit, like all that kind of stuff. So that's sort of the vibe that the New York breakfast tea is kind of giving off. Whereas the Melbourne one, if I remember, it's a little bit like darker. It's like a bit more like bitter, not as sweet, a bit smoother. I think it's more on par with the English breakfast. But not as, it's more bitter, but not as much as like the Irish breakfast. So they also do an Irish breakfast blend, but that's much more like maltier, which is interesting. So New York breakfast, and then next we have Russian Caravan, which in addition to Earl Grey, which is my favorite kind of spring, summertime tea, kind of like an all-arounder for me is Russian Caravan, which the one that I have is from Fortnum & Mason, so it's a bougie bitch. But I talked about it in the previous stream, just like the kind of smokiness but not too overwhelming, like just a really nice caffeinated tea. And then finally on our black tea list, we have Smuggler's Brew, which we actually got when we went on holiday to Cornwall. So we went to Cornwall and picked up this tea here. So it's another like black, like kind of on the same par as like English breakfast, but it's like I think meant to be a bit heartier. You know, the name implies like it's like a kind of grittier, more maybe like a bit more of like a maltier sort of stronger tea as opposed to like your traditional English breakfast. So yeah, there's our 6 teas. You can't really see them on there now because I'll go over them in a bit more detail later. So that was those ones. So what I'll probably do then is skip a line and then add the other ones. So now we're on to, look, basically, besides black tea and herbal tea, all the other ones I only have a single tea. And I used to have a lot more. I used to have like a few. The other one I actually don't have on the list is mate. And that was a tea that I had on the previous list that I've completely run out of. I don't have any more mate teas. As far as I know as well, that's not an official tea as well. Like there's a specific plant that has like a natural sort of, it has higher caffeine levels, I think, than tea does. They're sort of, it's marketed as sort of like a better for you, more natural sort of caffeine high, more sustainable, like less sort of crazy than like coffee. Not that coffee is not natural, but yeah, like that sort of, it's marketed as like something that you mix with like ginseng and other things. I'm sure like a lot of like natural energy drinks and stuff, I've seen a lot of them like not only have ginseng but like have mate and things like that in them as well. So that's what that is, but I've run out of that. I don't have any of that anymore. So in terms of green tea, I used to have a bunch of green tea, I think because like a few I've gotten a few presents where you get like sampler packs from different places. So now, used to be David's Tea, but obviously here now it's T2. So there's been a lot, I think I had a few green tea sampler packs. And that's what I was using a lot of my green teas, and there were a lot of different flavored ones. Whereas now that they're gone, I literally just have, I think it might be Tetley. Fair what, it's just like, yeah, it's just like a pure green tea, like nothing fancy about it. I think it might be don't know actually. I think it might be a steamed green tea, if I had to guess. It's not like a super nutty tea. I think it runs the risk of sort of tasting a bit like seaweedy if it's oversteeped. So that's sort of my guess, that's what that is. So that's our green tea. That's it. That's all we really have going on. The next one is our white tea, which is actually a blend that I made myself. So I call it Tasha's tea. So when a couple years ago, obviously again, before the world went to shit, but there was a kind of, I don't know if it really was like a convention here, but it was sort of like just like a tea event, a tea sort of, there was a lot of like, people I think that were looking to do like mass distribution or like looking to strike sort of like large deals, like merchandising deals and stuff like that. But anyway, there was this company called Bird and Blend, and they were offering not like a workshop, but a service at this event that you could then make your own tea blend. So I decided, because I didn't have a lot of white teas, obviously still don't, this is the only one on the list, to take a white tea base and then add rose and lavender and some like orange, like a little bit of citrus. And I'm quite content with that. I quite like it because, again, like lavender, just like a kind of nice calming, peaceful, but not so far onto the herbal scale that there's no caffeine content. Because just because I want to be calm doesn't mean I don't want to be awake, if that makes sense. So yeah, I was quite pleased with that. I actually am almost out of it, so it'd be really cool to re-up that blend again. I would quite enjoy that. So on to that one. This one, now we're on to our oolongs. So oolong apparently is the tea blend that takes the longest to manufacture. So something about the process is a lot more labor intensive. It's a lot more roasting and drying, and like there's a lot more, this is why we do this in pencil first. I almost made it an oolong, and just instead of 2 O's, I gave it 3. But yeah, so one of the things that I learned at this tea convention is that when you have oolong tea, because it's the way it's dried up, it's like really tightly condensed tea leaves, the loose leaf tea. And so what you're supposed to do before you steep it is you're actually kind of supposed to rinse the oolong tea, and it's supposed to wake up the tea leaves, but it also kind of cleans them because there's a higher manufacturing process and a lot more labor intensity that goes into the tea. There's a lot, I guess, a higher chance for there to be sort of like different impurities and stuff in that. So if you give it a rinse before you then sit it down to actually steep it, then I guess it's just a nicer finished product. And it gives the tea leaves a chance to start opening up because they're so tightly wound, and there's actually like so much, I guess, tea flavor. And if you kind of steep it before you have a chance for it to start doing that, you're kind of not getting the full benefit of the tea. I think that's I'm speculating that, but it kind of makes sense. But yeah, so this tea, again, is another one I brought over from Canada. And this one's a funny story because it was actually a set of like 3 teas. So there was 2 loose leaf and I think a bag tea. And it was given to me by somebody who really sort of like led me on a little bit. And I remember he bought this stuff and was kind of like, oh, like, look, this is really cool. Like, I got you a present. And then it had all these caveats where it's like, I got you this present. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. Thank you. He's like, but it was really expensive. So, like, it's not just for you. Like, it's for us to share. But I think I took it all home and was like, bitch, this is mine. And he turned out to be, you know, not the greatest person. So part of me is kind of like, yeah, exactly. I stole the tea. But yeah, so that's what that tea is. So I'm still working through that because it was a massive container. Like, it was a huge ass bag that ended up coming over. And then again, because the tea itself is so tightly wound, like, you don't need a whole lot when you make yourself a cup of tea. There's other types of tea, or at least, like, I guess depending on the blend or depending on how the company manufactures it, like, the tea is very broken. They're not like super full leaves, so you can kind of get away with like dumping, instead of like 1 standard scoop or 1 like teaspoon scoop, you can dump 2 in it, and like it doesn't overwhelm your steeping cup or whatever. Whereas with oolong, I think if you put like 2 giant scoops in there, like it would grow and expand, almost like, you know, when people say, like, when you eat a bunch of bread or eat a bunch of rice and the gluten sort of expands in your stomach, like, that's what the tea leaf does in the steeping container. So, wouldn't recommend that. But, yeah, that's how I have that tea. It's because some person tried to gift it to me, but, like, with caveats. But then I just took it. So, that's that. So, now, the last one before we dive into all of our herbals is pu'er tea, which is something that, again, like, because I haven't been on a tea deep dive in a while. I think I need to go back and like rehash my my tea knowledge is, I don't think it traditionally in all of the times, but pu'er tea typically comes in cakes. So usually you kind of have like loose leaf tea or you have bagged tea. So loose leaf tea is obviously like loose leaves. Bagged tea is the loose tea in a bag, but usually the tea is ground up much more finely. So I don't know if you've ever accidentally like popped open a tea bag or something like that. Like the individual pieces of tea are a lot smaller than you have in like a loose leaf tea. And then pu'er tea is, I think it's fermented. I think there's something about it. And it's aged. So it's one of the teas that like when it's picked, it's almost like they store it longer for it to age, similar to like oak barrel, rum or wine or whatever, like that sort of stuff. So I think it's a little something about the process that encourages like aging is like a good thing for this type of tea. So it's like densely packed in these cakes, and then, or like little balls. If you get samples, there's like little kind of balls of tea. And you're meant to use, there's like all of these different sort of appliances or accoutrements that you use to like cut, like, scoop off a piece of this pu'er tea to stick in your cup. Sort of similar to like, how matcha has like a bunch of stuff. There's like a matcha spoon and a matcha whisk, and there's all these different like tea accessories that you're supposed to use to get the best, like, I guess, not use of the tea, but like to bring out the best in the tea and to like follow maybe the traditional uses or the traditional ways that they're made. I'm making a list. So I'm making a tea. Basically, I have a giant tea collection and I need to update my tea list. So this is the old one and this is the new one. So right now I'm just laying the foundations, and it's obviously super janky, so I don't want to, doesn't show up the best, but yeah, I love tea too. That's what I've been just chatting about, different kinds of tea, because besides mate tea, which I don't have in my collection anymore, I basically have like at least one of every kind of tea in existence. So yeah, so right now I'm just talking about like pu'er tea, which, I'm gonna have to write this so much smaller. So it has this long ass name. So this particular pu'er tea that I have is called Meng Hai Ki Zing Bing Cha. Awesome, cool. See you later. And yeah, so it's just a long ass name. So I need to write smaller. So let me just, luckily it's not on a glue portion, because that's my biggest fear. Is I don't know if you remember, you think I would have learned, it's obviously such a long time since I've done like traditional arts and crafts, but when you like glue something down and you don't wait for it to dry and then you try to write on that glue portion, then it breaks and tears, and we don't want that or need that in our lives, because that will defeat the whole purpose of this list. It won't defeat the purpose, but I'll just have to start over, and I have zero patience for that. So okay, let's try again. We have 6 words to fit in this section, so let's do that. Meng Hai Ki Zi Bing Cha. Perfect. There we go. So there is basically half of our tea recorded on this list. And now we're on to all of the herbals, which is, if you remember, are not real tea. They are they don't contain tea leaves. I guess what I should have did, because I guess technically, because basically here's my quandary. I have a decaf Earl Grey tea. So technically that is a black tea. But I think the way that I've put the chronology of everything is that I kind of associate the category of black tea with they have caffeine in them. And so to put a decaf one in there sort of throws off what I'm trying to accomplish. It's basically the same version as the Earl Grey, but one is decaf in a bag and one is loose, caffeinated. So I'm not sure. Maybe I should add it to that one. And then I can just put decaf and not decaf. Or maybe I'll indicate up in the corner, because one of the things that I did on the old tea list is I indicated with a B or an L which teas are bagged teas and which teas are loose leaf teas. So I could do that as well. I'll put reg and decaf. Yeah, maybe that's what I'll do. Put reg / decaf. So then that indicates that we have both versions. And then, yeah, okay. So I did not, again, I didn't put this in alphabetical order. So I'm going to say the alphabet out loud again. So I have A, B, C. So the first herbal tea we have is Calm the Fuck Down tea, which is a chamomile based tea. I think it has other things in it. It has, a lot of times you'll see chamomile blends, sleepy time blends that'll have chamomile, nettles, maybe some licorice root, maybe some of that. So I think that's sort of what the components for this one is. And so, yeah. So that tea is used when I need to calm the fuck down. And so I remember when initially, I think my partner gave it to me, because if I haven't already talked about it, obviously, I struggle with anxiety and depression at times. And so some of the time, when I used to, it still happens, but I used to have frequent panic attacks or anxiety attacks. There were a time where it was happening at midnight, 2:00 in the morning, not being able to sleep. So, bless my partner, one of the things he would do is make me my calm the fuck down tea. And it sort of had, it's funny, but it has two purposes, because obviously if you're crying a lot, you're getting dehydrated, so you do need to drink something, if not water. I'm gonna move this over, and I'm gonna be cutting into my glue lines, which I'm a bit worried about, but yeah, so the tea is helpful not only to hydrate you, but obviously because this tea is designed to be more of a calming tea. So it had two benefits, which was really good. And so I still have it for emergencies because, we're not out of the woods yet. It's struggling with mental health stuff in general is lifelong. So it always helps to have different tools at your disposal to help you manage them. And for me, tea is one of them. Another thing, obviously, like I'd mentioned before, is cross stitching, which is why I started doing this, because it's, trying to foster a community of calm and zen and, anxiety free. If not forever, at least for now, right? So first, column ABC. So D, we've already decided that we're doing the decaf in that section. So another one, actually this is hilarious. So I also have something called the depression and anxiety tee. And so this one was actually a bonus tee in a present set that my brother got me from a company. I think they're from Liverpool, and it's called Witch's Tea. So it's actually a company of, I think it's two witches that create herbal blends for people that are meant to assist in different things. So this was actually the bonus one. So I got I think it was like a solstice kit. So I got 3 teas, which are all going to end up on this section. So I got purification, divination, and meditation. So that was the bundles of teas that that I was gifted. But I guess because because my brother bought, this blend, I also got a bonus blend. And so the bonus blend I got, which actually I've used the most so far, is the depression and anxiety tea. So again, that's one of the cool things about tea, I guess. Well, besides all other things, there's a lot of health benefits to tea, and even too, there's something to be said. There's almost an aromatherapy component to some of these as well, because obviously, I know chamomile and different herbs and stuff actually have naturally kind of calming, soothing components, but sometimes just to activate your other senses, smelling a tea blend, that has lavender in it, for instance, that not only will be soothing to drink, but also soothing to smell, and that can also then help, calm down whatever ails you mentally, not physically. But obviously there are other things I have another tea blend on here. I have a hibiscus leaf one. And so some of the things that I've read up about hibiscus leaf is that it helps lower blood pressure and things like that. Obviously that doesn't circumvent or doesn't mean that if you have blood pressure issues that you shouldn't be consulting a doctor and maybe have to be on blood pressure medication. Don't just be I'm just gonna drink hibiscus tea and everything will be fine. It probably won't, but if drinking it can help in addition to other things, why not, so that's sort of my stance on that. So continuing with our alphabetical order and our witch's tea, we have our divination. Like I said, I got all 3 of these, and I don't know if it's not coincidental, because I think I've read the ingredients lists on the backs of all of the teas, and they do have similar herbs within it. They're not the exact same, but some of the herb profiles are very similar. So a lot of them smell very similar. They kind of all smell the same. So when it comes to picking something that you want to drink, sometimes the smell, if everything's the same, it's kind of I have these 3 teas, which one should I drink? I guess in a way with these ones, you're kind of meant to pick them for the meditative or the spiritual purposes that you're going to use them for. Maybe that's why I haven't drank them much, because I haven't really done any witchy shit in a hot minute. I want to. I feel my desire to be witchy and cast spells and read tarot and be spooky ebbs and flows. because I think I have a lot of like perfectionist tendencies in myself. And so when you learn something, for instance, like I've been trying to learn how to read tarot cards like on and off for a while now, and there's so much, and there's so many different interpretations of it, and there's so many different like ways to read things, and it's all about context and all about these different things that I really struggle with. Like there's no black and white to be like, this is what this means in all instances at all times. And so because that's not the case, I get kind of overwhelmed and then a little bit disenfranchised because I'm like not getting it right away, which I know it doesn't make sense, but that's some of the things that I find. Like I think, I read I have read, a lot of books about different things, and I got this really cool planner. Again, I think a lot of the like witches in the UK live in Liverpool, and it's probably not true, but it's just because this witch's tea is from Liverpool, and then there's this collective, it's another 2 women that are also from Liverpool that made these really cool witchy planners, and they're called The Secrets of the Cauldron, and I got their planners last year, and they had a bunch of like interesting spells that corresponded with the moon phases or corresponded with the stars, I guess. Like, how like certain like signs are in different things, like, Mercury in retrograde and like that sort of stuff. So when different things were happening, like the moon or different earth phases, stuff like that, there were like different spells or different like meditative practices to kind of go forth on that. So I did a few of those. But again, it's like if I don't have all the supplies, or I don't have exactly what's written down, or I don't know, like I don't know if it's gonna work, or I don't know like what it is. So I kind of just need to get out of my own head and like stop kind of getting all hung up on it. But it is something that I am continuing to, or would still like to dive more into. And then maybe when that happens, I will drink my divination tea while I'm doing it. But until then, that's not the case. Okay, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Cool. So the next one on our list is, again, another tea that I've brought with me from Canada. This one actually, well, in 2 ways. So it's discontinued because it's from a company called Tea by Daniel. And Tea by Daniel doesn't exist anymore. I think now he's gone into specifically like he still does tea. I think he's specifically in like just the chai business. I haven't followed like his journey and stuff in a while. I just remember when him and his partner were talking about how they were gonna like close down Tea by Daniel and that kind of stuff. So it's like become even more discontinued now that that company doesn't exist anymore in that specific iteration. But basically Ginger Fruit Loops is a tea, an herbal tea that basically tastes like eating Fruit Loops cereal. And I got so excited when I figured this out. And again, I was like telling my partner like, oh my God, you have to try this tea. It tastes just like Fruit Loops. And then I figured out that he's never eaten Fruit Loops. That's not a thing over here. So when I came to visit one day, or when I moved, I had to bring not only the Ginger Fruit Loops tea, but also Fruit Loops for him to try to then make that comparison. And he stated that the Fruit Loops were too sweet for him. So, yeah. So, the comparison didn't really work. So I still have it. So before, Tea by Daniel shut down, they were still going on, but they discontinued Ginger Fruit Loops because I guess because it has like pineapple and stuff in it. Pineapple, lemongrass. So the ginger, obviously. So the distributor that they were getting the pineapple from, I think, that business deal fell through and they couldn't like find a way to source whatever the other ingredients they needed to do so. So instead of trying to kind of sort that out, they decided to just discontinue that tea. And this is the one that I'm like kind of thinking like maybe I just need to throw it out because like I smelled it the other day and I think again it must be like the pineapple in it that it's starting to almost like get too soury, like pungenty smelling. So I'm a bit worried about that. So I might have to throw that one out. But I'm going to persist. I'm not ready to part with it yet. I'll have a couple infusions of it. I'll steep it a couple more times, and if it's like really not working for me, then I might have to give it the kibosh. But yeah, okay. So that was ginger Fruit Loops. E, F, G, H. Yeah, okay. So now we're on to hibiscus leaf. So this tea actually, so this one is literally just chunks of dried hibiscus leaf. And we actually got this tea from our old neighbors. So like before we moved, we had these neighbors that, I don't know, like they were just really nice. Like we really vibed with them. Like they were a bit younger than us. They had a really cute dog. And one Christmas, they got us a little care package. So it had like a Galaxy vegan salted caramel chocolate bar, and it had a candle, and it had hibiscus leaf tea, and like that just like hits all the boxes for me. I'm like, you want to give me chocolate, tea, and like a nice smelling candle? Like you guys are so awesome. So yeah, so we still have that tea. I had another tea that was like hibiscus based that I was explaining before. That's how I found out about like the potential benefits of lower blood pressure or something from hibiscus. But yeah, so now I've managed to finish that one. Now we just have the hibiscus leaf. And that one's actually quite nice when it's mixed with the green tea because it's not too, there's not so much going on and it's not like super kind of earthy. So the green tea sort of balances out the sort of like sweet souriness of the hibiscus if it's steeped too long. Obviously, I think one of the things I've been doing too with more fruity based herbal teas is I've been adding like honey to them. Also too with my green tea, I love a bit of honey in some green tea. Most other teas, like I just drink black. Like milky tea is a huge thing here. Like everybody has milk in their tea, but first of all, I didn't really grow up drinking tea. Before I was diagnosed with celiac, I was considered like lactose intolerant. And I think a lot of people kind of, I feel like it's not uncommon for people to sort of be like, oh, like I'm lactose intolerant, but like I still eat cheese and still eat ice cream and that kind of stuff. So like my family, like we didn't grow up really drinking milk, like cow's milk or things like that. So when I kind of came here and like when you ask for just like a cup of tea, the standard is to put milk in it. I had to kind of be like, no, black tea. No, black tea. Like you have to specify that. Similar to like, if I wanted an Earl Grey tea, I'd have to be like, I don't just want like standard tea. I want a specialty black Earl Grey tea. But it's weird because when you order a specialty tea, so like an Earl Grey or whatever, they will ask you if you want milk with it. But if you just ask for like a regular tea, it's like you get English breakfast and you get milk. And I'm like, okay. So things you need to like pick up and navigate as a black tea drinker in the UK. But yeah. So that is what that is. What was I even talking about? Oh yeah, adding honey and things to tea. Jeez, just went on a rant about stuff. But yeah, so adding honey, I usually do add honey to the hibiscus leaf tea and definitely to green tea. It also helps circumvent if you accidentally oversteep the green tea, because green tea, again, in addition to steep temperature when it comes to brewing the perfect cup of tea, you also have to take in consideration steep time. So black tea can be steeped for like 2 minutes, at 100 degrees, no big deal. Green tea has to be 80 degrees and like only steep for like 30 seconds to a minute. But sometimes you get distracted. You're like unstacking the dishwasher. I'm like, feeding Shadow. I'm like sorting stuff out. That it sits in there for too long. And so to kind of combat the bitterness that can come with oversteeped green tea. If you put a bit of honey in it, that sort of like, you know, keeps you safe. Keeps you safe from the oversteepage taste. Which I find good. So now, okay, after H, I, J, K, elemental P. So I don't know if I kind of like, I didn't fuck up. I was thinking like, oh, maybe I did, but the tea, one of the teas, I have 2 pures, right? So this company, I'm pretty sure it's Tetley. We have pure green tea, so that's pure green, and then we also have pure peppermint and pure chamomile. Because a lot of other teas, like different brands, and even these ones too, it'll be like chamomile and honey, or it'll be like sleepy time tea, so it won't just be straight up chamomile. It'll be like chamomile with licorice root and like, you know, valerian and spices and different kinds of things like that. Similar with peppermint. It'll be like 3 mint tea, and you'll get like your peppermint, spearmint, wintergreen, all that kind of stuff. Whereas these ones are just like pure one ingredient, which is nice because if you're my partner, you like chamomile tea, but you hate licorice. So I don't know why so many like sleepy time teas put licorice root in it. I guess it's maybe meant to be calming, but like licorice as a flavor is so polarizing that it just seems really wild to me that like it's become so commonplace and it's like maybe it's very faint, but like if you don't like a flavor, you can pick that flavor out of a thing, even if it's like subtly in there. So yeah, people need to stop doing that. So this one is just straight up chamomile. So this is pure chamomile. Yeah. And then in addition to pure chamomile, which again tastes really nice with honey in it, we also have the pure peppermint. So I was a huge like evening peppermint tea drinker. I think that was one of the first teas that I ever had was peppermint tea. 'Cause as a kid, like, you know, once you get over your aversion to mint, which I feel like a lot of kids when they first, because it's such a strong, like, intense flavor, a lot of kids, like, don't mess with peppermint. And then you get to a certain age where you're like, candy canes, like, you know, like stuff like that, or like gum or something like that. You transition from like the fruity Hubba Bubba gums and like into like a, you know, pack of XL or like a pack of extra. And once you make the transition, then, you know, it doesn't seem so out of character to then dive into peppermint tea. But yeah. The other tea I was thinking about the other day, because one of the, so I had mentioned earlier how my favorite tea, especially spring, summertime, is Earl Grey. And one of the major components of Earl Grey tea is bergamot. Like that's a main ingredient or flavor that makes Earl Grey Earl Grey. And so I remember when I was younger, I didn't realize what it was at the time, but now knowing what it is, we actually had a bunch of bergamot growing like wildly in our garden. And me and one of my friends, we must have been like 7, something like that. We used to pick the bergamot from the garden because my mom had told me like, oh, you know, like you can make tea out of this. And we were like, what? Like that's amazing. So we used to pick the bergamot, you know, wash it, and yeah, steep it and make ourselves our own bergamot tea. And then we didn't have like, because we didn't drink milk and stuff, but you know, we wanted to be like acting all bougie, so we had like the creamer jug and like the sugar jug and all that, and we were pretending to have a tea party. And we took Coffee Mate, which if you're from Canada, I think maybe in the States as well, it's like a liquid coffee creamer. And it's lactose free, but it has like artificial flavors in it. So it's like vanilla, or you can get caramel, you can get whatever. I think I've talked about this before. So we used to pour the Coffee Mate in with our bergamot tea and have tea parties and thought we were so bougie. But then our mouths would get super itchy afterwards. And I don't know if that's because like we didn't wash the leaves very well, or like, yeah, I don't know. If my parents maybe like sprayed bug killer stuff on it and like we didn't know about it or something, like I'm not sure. But I just remember like we had to stop having these tea parties because like something was up with those bergamot leaves. But yeah, that was something else I used to do. Okay, so now we're on to purification. I think that's the last. Oh no! Oh no! Shit, guys, I fucked up. We're missing a T. We're missing the meditation T. See, this is why I should have put them in alphabetical order before I started, but I didn't. Also, it's amazing how much time has gone by, and I thought I would be able to finish this in 2 hours. If anything, I was like, oh, I'm gonna be done like way beforehand and like not know what to do with myself. Turns out that's not the case. So we needed to add meditation to the list. And then we can add our pures. I love how before I was like, I'm going to try like do really nice fancy writing and like try to do all. I'm like, now I don't care. I'm like, let's get this done. Okay, pure chamomile followed by pure peppermint. Yeah, I might just have to, because there's only so many like activities outside of like stitching and things that I, one, have an interest in, or two, have like the brain space for. So after this, I might just have to like toughen up and attempt to stitch in the evening and just accept that like I probably have to do a bunch of frogging. What I might do actually is maybe do 2 different projects. So like I'm working on the cryptid stitch along on Tuesdays during the day, Tuesdays 3 to 5 GMT, British time. And so I was hoping maybe like in the Thursday evenings I would like have some different kind of crafts and things that I want to do. So far this is the only thing that I have on the docket that's not stitching related. So I might do more stitching or maybe needle felt, because I have like needle felting stuff that I haven't taken out in a while. So maybe we needle felt on Thursdays. That might be dangerous though, because it involves like holding a bunch of felt and stabbing it repeatedly. I seem to enjoy crafts that involve needles and stabbing stuff, which may or may not be a bad idea in the evening based on how much my brain is still awake by that time. But who knows, like that might be a cool idea. I can come up with some different things. I want to make like, because I have a bunch of like things to make brooches, so I could do a bunch of like needle felting and then create like some sort of flat laying creatures or images or flowers, butterflies, mushrooms, like whatever, and then to stitch, like to stick a pin on the back of it, like to make brooches. So that's an option. So I could do that. Yeah, so purification, which is the last of our solstice. Purification. That's how I knew that I missed meditation, because I was like, this is the last one. And then I was like, I didn't put the other one down. LMNOP. QRS. Okay, and then I think that's it. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Right, because I moved the decaf. Okay, cool. So that should be it. Super berries. All right, perfect. So that's all the teas. I don't need to be constantly refreshing my phone every 5 seconds anymore. Oh yeah, I know what that is now. So since we have that sorted, we can actually maybe do some more stamps. Yes, I like this idea. I think the other thing too that's kind of cool, maybe I should have left more spaces, but it's like if I, which I know I will, acquire more tea, then I can put those on the other lists or on the other, in the other sections. So let's do more stamping. This is fun. I got these ages ago because, again, like the tea obsession has been ongoing. And as I've started crafting, that's then, you know, always finding ways to like combine the things I love. And oh, that looks real good. I don't know. Here, we can move this in a little bit more now. Look at that. Wow. Fancy teapot. And then we'll add. See, I like this. This is really good. My my other tea list didn't have this level of schmanciness, of schmancy customization. There we go. And then I'm wondering if I've made myself enough room. Oh, it might be a little tight. Might be a little tight. To yeah, to do one of these either side as well. Just want to make sure. Oh, okay, I think it might be okay, and it won't go over the edge if I line this up. Oh, please, because I don't really want it to go onto the green, because I want this to be like a proper border. Okay, moment of truth. Okay, it's like almost, but it didn't touch. Perfect, perfect, perfect. And then we'll do the same on the other side. Uh-oh. Okay, that might be. Okay, we have a bit of overlap, but that's okay. It like makes it look, yeah, I don't know. I'm not mad about it. Cool. Sure. All right, so the next thing we need to do, we got 15 minutes. We need to designate some colors for our legend for the different teas that we're gonna do. And I think just to make life easier, should I do sort of similar colors to what I did last time? I'm gonna say yes. I'll make them slightly different just because these are what we have. So we'll do gray for black. I don't want to do like just black because I want it to look a little bit different. So we'll do black green for green, obviously. White. We can make orange. This is quite a nice little color palette. And then we need our oolong, which I'm tempted to make purple because why not? And then we'll make our pu'er tea. I'll show you these. These are the colors we have to choose from. Might do a blue actually. I feel like I'm going a bit more muted, which I'm not mad about. And then we'll do, just to throw it off, obviously, I guess we'll end up doing like, actually that's not the worst. I think if we did like a hot pink, that would be like too crazy, but the light pink still goes with this vibe. Do I really? Okay. Let's think about this. Pink is going to be the majority of the writing on the page. And I'm not a huge fan of pink. So maybe, because my favorite color is purple, if we swap the oolong tea and the herbals, so I actually get a color that I like. Cool, let's do that. So what I'm gonna do is create my little legend. Where makes sense to put it? Maybe here. So I'll make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Kind of need to do like half that. So I'll stick 2. And we'll do like a little heart instead of the squares. And then, so that, I'm just gonna go for it and not worry about, oh wow, okay, maybe I do need to, I know I just put it back. This one's too fat. Here, we'll write on the scraps what's going on here. Oh yeah, that one's hella dead. We don't need that. I'd actually use, I have a really nice pen. Cool, there you go. There we go, this is nice. So we'll use this one. Hopefully I spell all of these correct, because I'm using pen, because that's where we're at now. Okay. And this one is going to be the pu'er tea. I think there's different ways to spell pu'er, but this is how I have it listed previously, so I'm assuming that I did my research and came to that conclusion. Okay, and then the next one is oolong tea. Just 2 O's, not 3 in a row. There we go. Oolong. This is white tea. I love how I was so perfect about like lining things up and making sure things line up, and I'm like, good enough. There we go. I love if I did all of this, and every time I stitch I bring myself tea. Like I said, I had just finished dinner and like it wasn't time for tea, and now I've just left it too long. So the irony is not lost on me that I decided to do a stream about my tea collection and I'm not drinking tea like I have been in my previous streams for non-related tea things. So here is, ooh, green, and black tea. Okay, and now hopefully the easy part / quick part will be just tracing over what I've written. And then don't know if it's necessary for me to put whether or not the tea is bagged or loose. I think the only instance where that kind of matters is because English breakfast, I have both a bagged tea and a loose tea. But I'm not that, I don't know, like it just, I think that was more just for my own inventory, but I don't think that that matters that much. So, still not sure if this glue has dried yet. Gray. And I'll put reg / decaf. Cool, there you go. Now you can kind of see what's going on. There we go. There. I know I've like turned a bunch of the quality, not quality, but like, well, yeah, I guess quality. I guess that's kind of what it releases down to. But in terms of like, video lagging, so I've turned down the resolution. That's the term I'm looking at. So I don't know if that's then causing the stuff on here to not show up as clearly, but hopefully you still get the idea. There we go. And then once everything's written out, then and dried, I'm gonna just, you know, take a big ol' eraser and erase all of our lines so everything just looks nice and clean. I'm actually really excited about this now. Like, I was kind of like with the glue dry shenanigans, I was getting a little bit like, you know, I'm not sure, but like compared to my previous tea list, like I'm really excited. I have a border, I have like cute little teacup stamps, like it just looks a little bit cuter and has a bit, you know, more character than this one does. This one like did the job, but I think because I had so many teas, I didn't like have the chance to really sort of, I don't know, like make it cute. It was more like for inventory purposes as opposed to like, yeah, look at the menu. Because it's nice like when people come over, because, you know, I've sort of built up a bit of a reputation around my peeps, around my people. I think we both have. That's one of the things that brought me and my partner together, even though, you know, he loves tea, but he loves very specifically English breakfast tea. He's a very big tea drinker. But our shared love of tea, or our shared, you know, tea is a necessity for both of us. So our shared necessity of tea is something that we shared in it, you know, something we had in common. So we are definitely known collectively among our friends and family as like tea people. So when people come over and you offer them a cup of tea, you know, in most houses in the UK, that means an English breakfast tea. But in our house, you got so many options. And now with this fancy new tea list that I've made, people can truly see the options that they have. And sometimes things, like have a really cool name, like Smuggler's Brew, for instance. And so just the name, kind of gets people interested, and they'll be like, oh, like I'll try that one. Or, just the fact that some people, I think, are so used to, if you don't like English breakfast tea, if someone offers you tea here, you just go, oh no, like I'm fine, or like I'll just have a cold drink or something, because it's just like an automatic response because you don't like English breakfast or you don't like black tea, so you just assume that what's offered is just like not for you. Whereas this will give you an opportunity, or like when people come over, it's kind of like, no, like we have other options. You don't just need to have like the traditional tea that like everybody would serve you. And I think, I don't know, like I think people like that, because not everybody is like a true, I guess, diehard of the traditional sort of black teas. And so sometimes it's actually funny, my, I guess, uncle-in-law, but like we have other family members that don't really drink traditional builder's teas. So they usually have different tea options. And so they were actually quite excited when they came over to our place, because we had the different tea options that they would drink at their home, that they don't normally get access to when they're at other people's homes. So I just think that's awesome. And that makes me feel good, because I'd want you to have, your creature comforts in the tea department, at least. If you're into some crazy stuff, like, you can kind of keep that shit at home. But if you like different kinds of tea outside of, traditional black tea, like, I would love to cater that to you. I would love that to be something I can provide for you. So yeah, look, it's looking so good. Might just go a little bit. I know I was a little bit late, I guess. I'm always late to my streams. So I might just stick around until we finish this, because we're so dang close. It seems a shame to end the stream before we've completed our task. But yeah, so we'll see how this goes. Like I said, definitely 100% always going to be streaming Tuesdays from 3 to 5. I'm experimenting with like an evening stream as well, once a week. So if I can get to be streaming twice a week, once kind of during the day and once in the evening, I think that, because then that sort of caters to different work schedules, because I realize that, during the day a lot of people are working or they have other things going on, so they can't necessarily come in and check out a stream during the day, but an evening stream might be more accessible to them. So I'd like to be able to provide that in some capacity. So whether or not it'll continue, I kind of like the idea of like a Tuesday, Thursday model, because then that gives me a kind of day in between, and then also allows, just to kind of keep the momentum going. And it just, yeah. And it's not like super busy times, because I think there's a lot of, like a Friday night or like a Saturday night where I think a lot of people, I think people are streaming all the time, every time, but I think for me and my lifestyle, I feel like weekday streaming on those days would be more sustainable for me and something that I would enjoy. So that's what I'm gonna do. So yeah, and like I said, maybe I do bite the bullet and, you know, maybe I extend my caffeine intake, because I usually stop drinking caffeine around 4 because I deal with restless legs, to stop, you know, to stop drinking tea, caffeinated beverages at that point. But if I need more brain power, if I'm going to maybe try stitching in the evening, then I might, you know, keep my extend my caffeine intake time. But another option is, you know, bringing some of my other hobbies into the evening stream and sort of keep Tuesdays for stitching and Thursdays for, like I said, maybe needle felting or bead weaving, which I haven't done for a while. To be fair, I think that requires more brain capacity than cross stitching does, so that might not be an option. But yeah, I'm open. I'm, you know, still working, still testing things out. But in an exciting test, it appears whatever settings I've done and things I've rearranged have kept my connections solid. And I don't think we've actually had any video drops this entire stream, which is super exciting. I'm very, very happy about that. So I'm slowly figuring things out, which is good, because I was getting worried that maybe I'd have to switch up my setup, and I'm quite comfortable in my little corner, my little crafting area. And so, yeah, it seems like, you know, whatever tips and tricks I Googled and implemented seem to be working, which is very exciting. So that's one thing, less thing to worry about now. So now I can continue on my, basically, Twitch, how to Twitch is kind of what I'm doing right now. So, you know, I've figured out panels, I'm figuring out extensions, I'm, you know, doing all that kind of stuff. Next is like alerts, emotes, all those different things. And that will come. I think too, maybe the next big thing is just promoting this, because I am enjoying it. I think usually, like, I'm the type of person that when I set out to do something, I plan these like big long declarations on social media, like, this is the thing I'm doing, like, please be involved and blah blah blah. And then it's something that I either stop enjoying or it becomes unsustainable for me. And because I've put, like, you know, this big declaration out into the universe, I then get really guilty and frustrated that, like, you know, I've made this commitment, even though, like, I'm the only one who's really made it, to do something. And I feel, you know, bad that I'm quitting, essentially. But this is something I'm really enjoying. So basically I told myself, like, I'm going to try streaming. I'm going to see how it goes. And I'm going to, you know, do this for a few sessions, see if it's working, see if I like it. And then I'll start kind of promoting it. Because, yeah, like, I'm trying something different. I'm trying something different to see if that helps things become more sustainable for me. But yeah, like, I'm liking it. So think that I was going to give myself a month. I'm only, you know, a couple weeks in now, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'll start putting feelers out, letting people know, that sort of thing. But yeah, so here is our finished product. We have our tea menu, and then we've listed all of our teas, and then we have this. And so obviously I'm gonna make sure that the glue is fully dry, and then I will, like, erase everything and then laminate it. But definitely, I think this is a marked improvement from the last one. And I'm very excited. So yeah, thank you so much for joining me on this journey. And yeah, hopefully, definitely next Tuesday from 3 to 5 GMT. And yeah, maybe another Thursday. Not sure what I want to do with that one yet. But yeah, maybe we needle felt. Maybe we do other things with sharp stabby implements. That's not just cross stitching, but we'll see. But yeah, instead of that, I will see you guys later and have a good night. Bye.